You're listening to the Rise Above podcast, the only podcast on the planet with a mission to help you live a free and uncommon life. Here's your host, Greg Smith.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me once again for today's episode. This is the Rise Above podcast, and you are listening to episode number 8. I'm your host, Greg Smith, and I believe if you desire uncommon freedom in business and in life, it starts with creating a champion's mindset from within. Now, today's episode is called Drug Dealers Make Bank, Why Don't You? And for some of my listeners, that may sound rather abrasive, but that was the point. And it really all started back when I became an entrepreneur about 11 years ago. As you've heard in many of the past episodes, and maybe you haven't, but come from a small town, you're making $45,000 per year, no college education, you're doing rather well. But when I became an entrepreneur, I heard about people making, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, $500,000 per year, $1 million per year, et cetera. And where I came from, that was just absolutely, just never heard of it, and the only people that made that kind of money were either drug dealers, rappers, singers, actors, celebrities, basically. And I remember having these ambitious goals of just $1,000 a month on the side outside of my current job when I became an entrepreneur. Now, you may have a job and you may be listening to this and you may not be an entrepreneur, but there is a value in what I'm going to share today in terms of your self-worth, because a lot of times our self-worth can be wrapped up inside of money. And it's an unfortunate thing because money holds no power. It only holds the power that you give it. And money will only make somebody more of what they already are. So if you're a bad person now, you'll just be a bad person with money. If you're a good person now, you'll just be a good person with money. And so talking about money and talking about success, back when I became an entrepreneur, I really had this goal after I started going where I wanted $10,000 a month, but I didn't really believe that I was worth it. I did deep down inside, I thought that's cool for other people, but for me, that will never happen. And through each barrier that I broke, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, on and up, over to $100,000 per month, all of those goals along the way, and I kept making them incremental. I didn't just shoot to $100,000 a month, but through each one of those barriers that we broke became a belief that helped me raise above that. And I want to share that with you today because it's something that has truly changed my life. And it sounds so simple, but I realized that there were people in the world that were very wealthy that were doing bad things. And, it was a paradigm shift for me because I realized that money is neither good nor bad. Money is energy and money is a game. And I realized that you could be a rapper who sings about some of the most, nastiest stuff ever, and you are not changing the world or providing value for anyone. You could be a drug dealer who is, tearing people apart, or you could be a philanthropist that, raises money and does great things with money, or a political person who has a lot of money, or whatever the case is. There's so many different people out there that have a lot of money. And I realized that it wasn't neither good or bad. And so I started to think about it, and I saw that there was this underlying tone of what money really was. And so to me, money has become a game. And I don't wrap my worthiness in financial success, okay? What I wrap my worthiness is who I am as a person. However, money, when you are an entrepreneur or you're trying to help more people and serve more people, can become a measuring tool. It can be something that we can measure how many people we are helping. And the thing about money is money's not racist. It's not prejudiced. Money doesn't care what your past history was. It doesn't care where you grew up. It doesn't care who your dad was, who your mom was, if your dad left your family or your parents are divorced, or if you're divorced or whatever. Money does not care. there are things that money does care about, but it's none of those things. And that's good news for you. It was good news for me, at least. And so, what is money? Money is energy, and it's an exchange system. Money essentially, you have money and then you have value. And so, in order for you, as a consumer or me, to spend our money, we have to believe that we're buying something that has more value than keeping that money in our hands. Okay. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, or you sell things for a living like cars or insurance or anything for that matter, your job is to show that whatever it is that you're selling has more value than the money that's in somebody else's pocket. You see, the money that you may want to be successful, it's in other people's pockets. Now, where I grew up, that could bring a negative tone. You could say, well, in order to, get rich or be wealthy, you have to take money from people. Well, that's not true. What is true is that you have to provide value to people. And the value must be so large and so great that it's worth more to that person than the money that they have. All right? And so if money is an exchange system, I want you to start thinking about money as energy. People who have high energy, people who are sharing value at a higher level, they get paid more than people who aren't. And so you have to learn how to raise your energy and how to provide value into the world. And you can do that by many different ways. We've talked about that in a lot of the past episodes. But the thing about it is you can get wealthy and make more money. And it really is a mathematical equation. Success is a mathematical equation. And one of the best things I ever heard was, if you do things in a certain way, success is inevitable. And a lot of this came from a book that I read called The Science of Getting Rich. And this book, the word rich now can have negative connotations to it, but this book was written in the early 1900s. And if you really look up what the word rich means, it doesn't necessarily mean just financially. You can be rich in your relationships. You can be rich spiritually. You could be rich in your fitness and your health. You can be rich in many different things, and that's really what this book kind of talks about. But the fact is, money, good, bad, or indifferent, is what makes the world go around. And so you have to play the game. You could not play the game, and that's fine, but the game will play you. So you might as well just play it really well. And that's what I want to share today, is how to play the game of money really well. And so, this particular book, it has a line that says, you may be the poorest man in the continent. You may be deeply in debt. You may have neither friends, influence, nor resources. But if you begin to do things in this way, a certain way, you must infallibly begin to get rich, for the like causes must produce like effects. And, my story is really congruent to what this says. I didn't really have a ginormous network when I started my businesses. I had absolutely no influence whatsoever at all. See, I was a very, very young man. I use the term man loosely. I was still a kid, really. The only thing I had going for me was I had a great wife, still do, but she was the one who made me seem better than I really was at the time. But it says, if you begin to do things in a certain way, and I took that to heart. And for me, that meant if I found somebody else who had success and I followed what they did, and I followed their footsteps, that's the certain way. If I could follow what somebody else has done and I do what they did, then I can be successful too. And the book goes on to say, it says, a man's way of doing things, because you have to do things in a certain way. Well, it says, a man's way of doing things is the direct result of the way that he thinks about things. So what you do is an outward manifestation of what you think. And so the goal is to change what you think or how you think. And I'm constantly working, always working on how do I think about things. Far too often, people will ask entrepreneurs, like, what do you do? How did you do it? How did you do it? But what they don't ask is, how do you think about that? Or they don't get around that successful person enough to figure out how they think about things. Because you can understand the how, right? There's people who have a lot of book knowledge, and we've talked about this in the past as well. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't apply it, then it's really meaningless. And if you don't apply it in a certain way, or you don't understand why, then it may not work for you.
Are you someone who wants to live life on your own terms? Do you dream of having more time to spend doing the things you love? Then download your copy of The Freedom Formula absolutely free at www.riseabovepodcast.com. What are you waiting for? Go to www.riseabovepodcast.com to get your free copy of The Freedom Formula.
However, some people do fall into riches or money by doing things in a certain way, and they don't even know why they're doing it that way, and it just magically works out. But if you can change the way that you think, and I can continually change the way that I think, then we'll continually be changing the way that we do things. And so if we do things in a certain way, we can become wealthy. And so if money is this game, and the thought that I had, about realizing that there's so many people in the world, because I used to think that you had to be this uber, successful CEO kind of guy to have a lot of money. Or you had to go to school, get a degree, which I did not do. Or, you had to have this long resume and you had to wait until you were 60 to really be successful. But I realized that there were so many other people in the world that had money that it really had nothing to do with those things. It had to do with doing things in a certain way. It had to do with understanding that money is just this exchange system between two people. And so the one person that's, handing their money over is handing their money over for something valuable to them. And the person that is taking the money better be serving something that's 10 times worth the value that you're giving to that person. Because that little tip alone will keep customers happy and coming back to you over and over and over again. So don't, a little side note here, don't provide something. If somebody's going to hand you $100 for something, don't provide them just $100 worth of, value. Serve them, give them 10x, and they will be loyal to you forever as a customer. And that's really important. So let's get back to, this game of money. So if money was a game, how do you play it? How do you play the game of money? Well, we understand that money has no rules. Money does not care about your past or any of those things. What money cares about is the energy that you bring to the marketplace, and it cares about you serving people. How do you serve people? And so one of the ways that you can attract more money into your life, number one, is you can start thinking differently than you're thinking maybe right now. And that's not saying that you specifically have bad thinking, but if you want to get to a higher level than where you already are, the same mind that is getting you to where you are or that got you to where you are is not the same mind that's going to get you to where you want to go. And so you have to change the way that you think. And then as you're changing the way that you think, you will then in turn change the way that you do things. And so what we need to do after we're changing our way of thinking is we need to serve. We need to find something in the marketplace that people want. You got to find something. And we talked in previous episodes about, 7 essentials to a cash flow business. And you may not be looking for a cash flow business, but the 7 essentials really lays down how to find something that's unique, that provides value to people, and ultimately will allow you to serve them to where you can reap that reward. But the game of money comes down to how many people can you serve? How many people can you serve? And ultimately, what are you serving them with? And so, you can serve something small or you can serve something large, but in the end, it's about serving the masses. I had a mantra for many, many years that was, and it came from one of my old mentors. It was, I am a walking reward for 10,000 people. And I can tell you that has come true. Just with, one of the organizations that I've built alone has served, hundreds of thousands of people. One of the organizations I'm a part of right now is serving, tens of thousands of people. And so I've spoke in front of, thousands of people. And so that has come true to where, and it's not me being let me just back up before somebody, shoots me a mean email or something. It's not me being that reward. It's the message that's flowing through me. It's the message that's coming through me. Okay. It's not me. It's the message that somebody hears and that I might be sharing at that moment that just helps them. And it's nothing to do with me. It's just everything to do with the timing and where that person is and the message that I'm sharing. And it can be that same way for you. If you're putting good stuff in, good stuff comes out. And that good stuff, which, not many things are original these days. So just like I'm sharing today, part of the science of getting rich, those thoughts were once somebody else's thoughts. I've just taken them and I've shared my input and my thought process on those. And so you can do that too. And you can serve people and you can be a walking reward for 10,000 people as well. And so here's a quick little recap, because today's message is kind of short. I want to really encourage you to take a step back, because I've helped so many people when it comes to mindset issues, when it comes to success, and we see money as success, and that's something that I do measure. However, my success, as we've talked about, is relationships, spiritually, physically, those kind of things. But money does rank up there. I mean, we have to have money to operate, and we have to have money to have experiences, not necessarily materialistic things, but if you want to take your kids to Disney for that experience, that requires money. If you want to go out skiing in Aspen, that requires money. And so money is neither good nor bad. And so I have so many people that come into being an entrepreneur and they're doing some things right, but in the end, they're lacking true belief that they are truly worth the success that they really envisioned that they actually want. And I want to call hogwash on that, because there are so many people out there that aren't like you. There's so many people out there that are doing bad things in the world that have a lot of money. So money has no, you're not worthy. You are worthy. You got to provide the value and you got to provide the service to become worthy, and you got to become the right kind of person. But in the end, you are worth whatever it is that you believe you are worth. And if you know that there are people out there that are making a lot of money doing silly things, I mean, heck, there's people out there now that make, millions just off of YouTube videos or, Instagram and things like that. And that, by the way, is because they're providing energy and they're providing value by entertainment. Now, that's not necessarily my cup of tea, but that's what they're doing. So understand that they're doing that for, thousands or millions of people, and that's how they're getting paid. You don't have to do that. You can do it many different ways. And so go back and start to examine your own mind and start to really think about the fact that money is just a game. Money does not come down to a title. Money does not come down to an education. Money does not come down to what college you went to or didn't go to. Money's a game, and money is the game of serving people and providing value. Money is energy. Put good vibes out, good vibes will come back in. Now that's not like attraction, I just think about money, I'll come in. But if you put the good vibes out and you serve a lot of people, it'll come back in. So start playing the game of money and understand that the more money that inflows to you, and if you are the good person now, it'll make you more of a good person to where you can serve more money, or more people, even with that money. Somebody who's a good giver now will become a great giver later. And so, start to really examine, what are your thoughts when it comes to money? Does money make you feel negative? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you cringe? What is it? And start to rethink and start to look at it differently than you ever have before. All right. So with that, thanks again for joining me for episode number 8. you got value out of today and you have not done so, I would so appreciate if you would go back to iTunes or wherever you're listening from and drop me a review or maybe 5 stars. But what I really love, I literally go in every day and I read the reviews that people write, because that is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to help people change the way that they think, to help them have champions mindsets, to help them create freedom. So with that, until next time, take care. God bless.
This is the podcastfactory.com.